This is Sibongile Ziambo with the news, the headlines. Human rights lawyer and a social activist asked judiciary to clear Supreme Court confusion over death penalty in Malawi. ADMAC doubts accuracy of 2020-2021 crop estimates. Study on social media messaging in Malawi finds that people are exposed to a huge amount of misinformation and disinformation. In Mozambique, Mozambican prison heads fires days after appointment. Now the news in detail. Human rights lawyer and social activist Alexius Kamangira is demanding that the judiciary must come out clear and account for the confusion which has emerged over the death penalty, which was outlawed some 4 months ago. Kamangira told Zodiak today that the Supreme Court should be accountable, considering that 4 months ago, the same court ruled that the death penalty was outlawed. Meanwhile, legal think tank Professor Gaton Kamchedzera blames the Mason complacency and laissez-faire attitude among the Supreme Court judges as exposed by the two differing verdicts. Christopher Sande and Alex Banda filed this report.
Law experts and human rights activists have come out demanding that the judiciary must explain on the U-turn it has made that the death penalty still stands 4 months after the same court outlawed it. Human rights lawyer and social activist Alexius Kamangira says the Supreme Court of Appeal, just like any other arm of government, must come out clear on what process it has followed to rescind the area decision.
Interference of the judiciary can come within the judiciary as well. And as somebody that has advocated for the independence or the protection of independence of the judiciary, it is important that even the Zodiak decision, there should be a lot of analysis and I think investigations to find out what really transpired. I would want to, this issue, Alex, is no longer about Zodiak decision or the abolition of the death penalty. This issue is about now the rule of law. Because if the judiciary and the apex court can make a decision in open court and then 4 months later just come with a different decision, then we are not safe. No right in this country is safe. No rule of law can be said to have been upheld in such kind of a system.
Renowned law expert at the University of Malawi, Professor Gaton Kamchedzera, blames the mess on the complacency and laissez-faire attitude among the Supreme Court judges in discharging their duty as exposed by the two differing verdicts.
One can say that there was a failure in the discharge of duty with regard to making sure that the process was credible. One can say that. So when that happens and you are a duty bearer and people are supposed to place trust in you, then you have to account on how that happened. You shouldn't get to the point where people are asking questions, how did this happen? But if some mistake does happen, then you have a duty to explain and then maybe to pledge to say that this will not happen again, or to actually acknowledge that you should be held responsible or you shouldn't be in that position. That's what accountability entails.
Psychologist Ndumanene Surungwe says that such twists and turns of judgment can cause death row syndrome to murder suspects who were given a flick of hope 4 months ago.
It can actually be emotionally draining on those that are actually on that sentence.
These reactions come after the Supreme Court of Appeal, in its recent verdict signed by Chief Justice Andrew Nyirenda and 5 other justices of appeal, clarified that the death penalty still stands. Justice Dustin Mwangulu has not signed the rescinded verdict.
Former Information Minister Henry Musa and Gideon Muntali, former Director of Information, were in the Lilongwe Magistrate Courts Thursday morning as the case resumed over allegations they stole public property in office. The two are accused of stealing 10 computers and 3 gensets. Chumwe Badata was at the courts and reports.
Appearing at the Magistrate Court in Lilongwe, first accused person in the case, Gideon Muntali, former Director of Information, responded to questions on what transpired on a WhatsApp group that was used by officials from the ministry. The court traced conversations from the group dating back to April 2019. In this group, Muntali alleged that the former minister bypassed the principal secretary and talked directly to senior officials. On the 10 computers and 3 gensets, the former Director of Information acknowledged to have received the computers from Makra, but was advised by Deputy Director of Administration in the Ministry, Samuel Nankuni, to keep the computers. Muntali said he later decided to keep the computers in his vehicle, but during this time, he alleged that the former minister consistently asked whereabouts of the items through phone calls and text messages. Crispin Ndala is one of the defense lawyers.
Basically, what had transpired is we are going through the different chats, correspondence. This is WhatsApp, and indeed other means of having a conversation. So he was simply trying to lay the ground and indeed indicate to the court what circumstances were transpiring right at the Ministry of Information when he was the Director of Information there.
Are accused of theft of government property during their tenure in office. The case has been adjourned to 7th September. This is Chimwemwe Panata for Zodiac.
In Blantyre, the nurse assault case, which was intended to end on Thursday, failed to proceed in the senior resident magistrate's court because state prosecutor was transferred to Lilongwe. Instead, the state applied for an adjournment to a later date to allow the prosecutor travel from Lilongwe to proceed with the matter. In the case, Esnat Selemani and her daughter Yanko have been accused of assaulting a nurse at the Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital. Happen Germano filed this report from Blantyre.
Defense in the nurse assault case on Thursday brought all their witnesses, hoping to conclude the matter on the day. Little did they know that the state prosecutor was transferred to Lilongwe. This is the case which Esnat Selemani and her daughter Yanko are being accused of assaulting a nurse at the Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital. Instead of concluding the matter, state applied for an adjournment to allow the prosecutor travel from Lilongwe to proceed with the case. Magistrate Aki Amanyongo, who ordered during the previous court session that the case be concluded on Thursday, did not hide his displeasure with his state conduct. Mwanyongo told the state that the administrative arrangements should not suffocate cases in his court, saying he was at pains to adjourn the matter to 3 September 2021. Defense lawyer Roger Simpombeza was equally not pleased.
This matter commenced in March this year, so we are concerned that justice is being delayed, and we are really concerned because our clients are anxious to have the matter disposed of and know their verdict.
The accused allegedly assaulted the nurse Gertrude Moffat in the ward as she asked them to leave because guardians were not allowed due to COVID-19 restrictions.
And on the sad note, former Chief Justice Love Womunlo has died, and his burial will take place on Saturday at Chigodi area in Blantyre. The former Chief Justice died at Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital in Blantyre, where he was being treated. Judicial spokesperson Gladys Gondwe says the former Chief Justice raised the status of the country's judicial system, and his contributions cannot go unnoticed. She speaks with Chimomo Padata.
In the words of Honorable Chief Justice Andrew Nyirenda, SC, Chief Justice Monlo, SC, will be remembered as a fearless and ardent defender of the rule of law, whose exceptional values inspired many among us. He was a leader who raised the profile of our judiciary, and he goes away as a friend, a colleague, and a truly fallen hero.
Late Love Momuno was also a senior member of the Malay Congress Party. We caught up with the MCP Director of Elections, Moses Kumkuyu.
The sad news has happened that we've lost the former Chief Justice, who on our part was also a staunch member of the Malay Congress Party. We lost him this morning in Blantyre. The family has also confirmed the same, and we are waiting for the program of the funeral and the burial to be released, then we can also share the same.
How will you remember the former Chief Justice?
As the Malay Congress Party, we will remember him as someone who has helped in the shaping of the Malay Congress Party, the strengthening of the Malay Congress Party, the resilience of the Malay Congress Party is not a one-man contribution, but there are many people that have made significant contributions to the resilience of the Malay Congress Party that today we are back in government. And one of such people is the late Honorable Muno. You may wish to remember that he has held various positions in the Malawi Congress Party, and he even contested for the presidency of the Malawi Congress Party. He has never departed or withdrawn his membership from the Malawi Congress Party. This is an example of true dedication. He is a symbol of dedication in as far as political party membership and beliefs are concerned. We know that he had been admitted at the Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital in Blantyre. On the causes of the death, the family would be well placed to share.
The Agriculture Development and Marketing Corporation ADMAC has cast doubt on the accuracy of government's crop estimates for this year, which indicated that local farmers produced over 1 million metric tons of surplus maize. Addressing the media in Lilongwe after appearing before the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture, ADMAC General Manager Rano Chipiko said, for instance, there is low turnout of farmers selling the commodity to the parastatal through its market in the southern region, which calls for a fresh assessment. This report for by Winston Kaimira.
When officials from the Agricultural Development and Marketing Corporation, ADMAC, appeared before the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture, General Manager for the body, Rano Chipiko, urged the committee to facilitate a process of restoring ADMAC's lost glory. He said the body is facing challenges that include failure to buy crop produce on time, poor infrastructure and shortage of vehicles due to financial gaps. On this year's maize procurement exercise, Chipiko said 26,000 metric tons of the commodity have so far been bought using 4 billion kwacha of the 12 billion kwacha provided by government. The ADMAC General Manager also disclosed that there is financial gap in the maize procurement exercise as local banks are yet to release money under loans applied by the body. He has, however, cast doubt on the accuracy of government's crop estimates, which indicated that local farmers produced surplus maize of up to 1.4 million metric tons in the last growing season.
As a country, I think we have to tread carefully because the figures that we're talking about may not be very realistic. We're looking at issues of cross-border trade. There's no record as to how much maize crosses the border to other neighboring countries.
Chairperson for the committee, Samia Suleiman, expressed the fear that failure to provide accurate information on the country's food situation may lead to hunger. He also faulted government for overdepending on loans for ADMAC to buy maize from local farmers. But when officials from the Ministry of Agriculture, led by Principal Secretary Erika Maganga, appeared before the same committee in the afternoon, they insisted that the country has about 1 million metric tons of surplus maize being controlled by farmers.
What we report are figures, and the surplus will not be in government custody like in government hands. The surplus will be with the growers out there. And there have been issues where, because of cross-border trade, and then our borders are porous, maize can always, be exported without us government maybe knowing, because they use, the uncharted routes.
Meanwhile, ADMAC wants to go digital in its operations to adopt use of mobile money transactions, among other technologies. The body is also pushing for the establishment of a regulatory body to ensure sanity on procurement of crop produce. This is Winston Kaimira reporting for Zodiak.
Continued loss of the country's forest cover has forced government to call for a stakeholders conference next week to find solutions to the challenge. This has been disclosed by the Minister of Forestry and Natural Resources, Nancy Tembo, during a media briefing in Lilongwe, where she revealed that research by the ministry shows that half of the districts in the country are disaster-prone as a result. Known as the National Green Climate Conference, it will run from Thursday and Friday next week. Zodiak Nanguo filed this report.
Speaking ahead of the conference, Forestry and Natural Resources Minister Nancy Tembo says there is need for concerted efforts if Malawi is to save its forests. Tembo says at the rate at which forests are being destroyed, drastic measures need to be put in place to avert the situation, hence the conference, which will identify solutions to the challenges.
We have various problems that are out there, but we've not been able to achieve what has been intended. And that is why the whole essence of this conference is to take note of what we've done in the past. Where have we gone wrong? Where have we done better? How can we move forward? It's not a conference for lamentations. It's a conference where we are mapping the way forward together as Malawians.
The United Nations coordinator, Maria Jose Torres, says UN is committed to help Malawi retain its forest cover.
As United Nations, we are trying ourselves also to look into the capacity of the different UN agencies so we can really cluster more our capacities together, so we go to the communities together. And I think it's an appeal, of the conference also to see how the government resources and other development partners' resources can be more aligned to the same objectives.
Malawi is at the moment losing 32,000 hectares of forests every year to deforestation. Experts attribute the forest loss to the 2.6% increase in population annually, which is exerting pressure on the country's forests.
You're watching news on Zodiac. We'll be right back shortly. Stand by.
We are Charismatic Private School. Charismatic Private School is informing the general public that it is opening day and boarding school at Filipina Memorial School. Charismatic School has kindergarten, primary and secondary school. The school has school buses which ferry learners around Lilongwe. Charismatic School has conducive learning environment suiting your child. Charismatic School is situated at Area 22B and Kapini, while Filipina Memorial Boarding School is situated at Area 23, Benito Lilongwe. For more information, contact Charismatic School on the following numbers. Charismatic Filipina, creating brighter society.
Malawi Assemblies of God University, a reputable university registered and accredited by Malawi government through the National Council for Higher Education, is pleased to announce its August 2021 intake. Programs offered: Faculty of Commerce, Faculty of Education, and Faculty of Theology. For more information, contact 0884 538 163.
Awa ni masompenya amalawi watukula Malawi 2063 ufika 2063 kale wokomera aliyense achinyamata tigwirane manja tukula Malawi achinyamata tikale patsogolo tukula Malawi wozimira baeka Malawi wokomera aliyense Malawi 2063 kusinda dziko lathu mokomera aliyense.
Mona Malawi anzanga, nkhondo yogonjetsa COVID-19 ndi ya wina aliyense. Tili limodzi. Ine ndinasankha kulandira katemera wa COVID-19 atangoyamba kuperekedwa. Chifukwa monga namwino, moyo wanga, umoyo wa odwala amene ndimawasamalira, abale anga, ndi dera langa, ndi zinthu zomwe ndimazika pa mtima panga kwambiri. Katemera wa COVID-19 anditeteza ine ndi ena omwe analandira katemerayo ku chiopsezo choti tingadwale mwakayakaya, kugonekedwa mchipatala, kapena kutaya moyo wathu chifukwa cha COVID-19. Kulandira katemerayo kutithandiza kuthana ndi mliri wa COVID-19 limodzi.
Ziwani zambiri za katemerayo ndi kupanga chisankho cha nzeru. Sankhani katemera, tetezani tsogolo.
Welcome back. A look at the headlines as we continue the news. Human rights lawyer and a social activist asked judiciary to clear Supreme Court confusion over death penalty in Malawi. EDMAC doubts accuracy of 2020-2021 crop estimates. Study on social media messaging in Malawi finds that people are exposed to huge amount of misinformation and disinformation. In Mozambican prison, Hades fired days after appointment. Those are the headlines. And moving on with the news, preliminary findings of a study on COVID-19 messages on social media platforms in the country have revealed that people are exposed to a huge amount of misinformation and disinformation. This has come out on Thursday during dissemination of the preliminary findings of a content analysis on Twitter and WhatsApp messaging in Malawi, a study which was conducted by the Leadership for the Environment and Development LEAD, University of Malawi and the University of Leicester. Innocent Kumchera filed this report.
WhatsApp and Twitter. These are some of the common and most used social media platforms in Malawi. It is obvious that these platforms are making our lives better, simple, trendy, as well as keeping us on toes with what is going on. A new study is suggesting that people need to be careful of the information that they are getting on these platforms. According to this study, which is conducted by the Leadership for the Environment and Development LEAD, University of Malawi and University of Leicester, there's quite a lot of misinformation and disinformation in Malawi on COVID-19. Professor Sosten Chiwota is the regional director for LEAD, and he explains some of the key findings.
For example, one of them talks that avocado has the pH 15.6, but we know that the pH scale doesn't go beyond 14. There's another one that talks of pH of 26, and pH doesn't go that far.
The preliminary findings of this study were disseminated on a national stakeholders workshop, which was well patronized by government top officials, at least 3 government ministers, Minister of Health, Minister of Information, and Minister of Civic Education and National Unity. Minister of Health Kumbize Kandodo Chiponda agreed with the findings, and she said the problem is deep-rooted and is affecting all class of people. For example, Kandodo said the problem of misinformation and disinformation is even affecting key staff in the Ministry of Health to the extent that some senior staff, well-learned and enlightened, are refusing to go for COVID-19 vaccination, fearing the unknown and believing the misinformation and disinformation.
Meanwhile, Minister of Information Gospel Kazako has acknowledged the problem, and he further says that misinformation and disinformation is frustrating government's efforts to fight the pandemic.
If we are not careful, if we don't pay attention to detail, we might start to become a nation, we might become a world that will be living on lies. There are so many people that are living on lies, misinforming and disinforming, creating fake news. And now this fake news has not left any ground. It has also gone to the fight against the COVID-19. Certain efforts of our fight are being frustrated by those that are so much addicted to the production of fake news, distribution of fake news, and that is not helping matters. Fortunately, people are slowly becoming very critical consumers of information, where they are not just getting any information the way it is, because they are now becoming well informed that there are people that are there just to misinform people. So we are having this workshop at a very, very crucial and critical time, critical moment, where misinformation is at the very high peak. It is a weapon of mass destruction, because, look, all of us are products of information. All of us will behave and do things based on information that we have received. We react to something because of information. Information can be something that is visual, something that is audible, or something that is something you can feel. All that is information. So you react.
A group of about 45 police officers were summoned on Thursday at the police headquarters after they openly grumbled about weak allowances. These are officers who were offering security services at Kamuzu International Airport during the SADC summit. They claim some officers have been given 30,000 kwacha, while others have cut home funds ranging from 120,000 kwacha to 300,000 kwacha. National Police spokesperson James Karadzera confirmed that the police officers were were sent to Area 30 police, and this is what he told us.
When there are issues or grievances concerning police officers, right procedure, which all police officers know has to be followed. And in this case, if anybody has come to you complaining on anything, just to tell them follow the right procedure that they already know.
And in news from elsewhere, 2 new prison directors in Mozambique have been fired just 12 days after they were appointed. One of them is Hemina Hamudze, the director of Novella Women's Penitentiary, where the other is Ramos Sambuco of the Maputo Maximum Security Prison. And soon after they were sworn into office early this month, reports surfaced that the two had pending court cases. And that's about what we had time for in this edition of news. And before we go, a look at the headlines. Human rights lawyer and a social activist asked judiciary to clear Supreme Court confusion over death penalty in Malawi. ADMAC doubts accuracy of 2020-2021 crop estimates. Study on social media messaging in Malawi finds that people are exposed to huge amount of misinformation and disinformation. And Mozambican prison heads fired days after appointment. Visit our website zodiacmala.com for more news. This is Sibongile Ziambo. Thank you for watching and goodbye.